Hello, I'm Stephen, I'm a Doctor Who fan and I also suffer from depression, and today I'm suffering from a seasonal cold, so please bear with me if my voice sounds a bit off, but we'll push through this because it's going to be a really good episode today, because I'm going to be talking about one of my favourite stories, and that's The Visitation from Peter Davison's first season. But first I just want to give you a little bit of an update on how I'm getting on mental health wise at this point, because I'm now almost exactly 2 months into being off the antidepressants. So I just want to check in with you on how I'm feeling about that right now. So it's just after 6 AM. What you've already watched and what you're about to watch after this was recorded before that at about 4 AM or thereabouts. I had a lie-in, it's my day off. On a working day I'd have to get up at 2 AM. But there you go. That's Tesco's behind me. I've just been going in there doing my weekend shop. But I'm just going to tell you about how I'm getting on 2 months, roughly 2 months, into being off the antidepressants. There are good days and the bad days, of course, and I have noticed that there are slightly more bad days than there were when I was on the antidepressants, which is to be expected. But the other thing I've noticed is I seem to get tired more easily. Now, whether the antidepressants were giving me more energy as well, I don't know. But we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'd say overall, so far so good. I've got no complaints about how it's going. But it's just a thing to keep under observation. I'm glad I've came off them. I didn't want to be on them all my life, of course, and sooner or later you just have to make that choice to try and cope without. And the good thing that happened while I was on them was it bought me time to learn coping mechanisms, and I think that was the real advantage for me of the 2 years on the antidepressants. It's allowed me to learn how to cope a bit better. Well, I'm just going to go and get my shopping now and enjoy the rest of the video. Right, it's Doctor Who time, and I need the Peter Davison action figure, don't I? Drop the sonic device. Thank you, that's better. Time to sing along. Again, I'm sorry for my cold if that makes my voice sound even worse than usual, or maybe even better. I can't sing for toffee, but cold or no cold. Okay, so for the first time, the 5th Doctor is going into the hat. Oh, it's time to talk about Doctor Who. I've got the Doctor in my hat. I'll have to stay very, very, very still, or he'll fall out and go splat. Okay. So as you need a bigger brim on these, don't we? Okay, that's that. Okay. So this is the first time Peter Davison has come up. So, as it's now customary, the first time a Doctor comes up, I'll just say a few general thoughts on how I feel about that Doctor. Now, in my last episode, I said I had 5 top-tier Doctors. William Hartnell, John Pertwee, Tom Baker, David Tennant, Peter Capaldi. Not in that particular order, but they're my top 5. And 5 is a nice, convenient number. You know, we have 5 fingers on a hand, including the thumb. But if I was ever going to extend my top tier to 6 Doctors, well, this chap would be next in line to join the top tier. I've got quite a soft spot for the Davison Doctor. I first started watching the show towards the end of his run. Not very seriously watching it. In his last season I saw Warriors of the Deep, The Awakening, Resurrection of the Daleks, Planet of Fire, but I wasn't a serious viewer at that point. That came just a little bit later. I'll talk about that when the appropriate moment comes. But anyway, Peter Davison, I like his Doctor. I like that. He's got that sort of constant burning energy. His Doctor is so restless, can't keep still for long. He gets easily frustrated with people, but tries his best to hide it, and usually ends up failing to do so. Anyway, this story specifically, The Visitation. Now, this is the second time this has happened since I've been doing these vlogs, that my favourite story of a particular season has come up. I mean, we had my favourite season 22 story, Vengeance on Varos, and now we've got my favourite season 19 story, The Visitation, which sits slap bang in the middle of that first Davison season. Now, as in so many other cases, my actual introduction to this story was via the novelisation, which I've still got. This was probably the fourth Peter Davison novelisation I bought. I can only think that I had Enlightenment, Snake Dance and The Five Doctors before that. But I think this was actually, well, I'm certain, this was actually the first Peter Davison story to be novelised. And hence, we've got this weird flash here in the bottom corner, which says a BBC TV programme with Peter Davison as a Doctor. Well, the show had been running, best part of 18 plus years by this point, so if anybody didn't know Doctor Who was a BBC TV programme, I don't know, but they're obviously trying to cash in on the new start to the show. And this is the first photo cover for the target novelisation. And those of you of a certain age like me will remember that the target novelisations always used to, for the most part, have artwork covers. But then when Peter Davison came along, most of the stories from his first two seasons were novelised with photos either of a photo or a photo montage at some point. Now, this particular photo, I mean, that's clearly just a publicity still. It's got absolutely nothing to do with this story at all, as far as I can see. But I don't know this for sure, but this has all the sort of hallmarks of having John Nathan Turner, the then producer's fingerprints over it, knowing how much he loved his publicity. But anyway, that's the book, and I remember reading and enjoying that. And it's written by Eric Saywood, who wrote several others after he wrote Earthshock, Resurrection of the Daleks, Revelation of the Daleks. It's widely believed he wrote Attack of the Cybermen too, and the greater part of the Twin Dilemma, which apparently needed a lot of work on it. And this story is a bit of an oddity for an Eric Saywood script. It's his first one for the show, and we haven't quite got all his trademarks in. I mean, usually the thing which I find slightly lets down an Eric Saywood script is he always tries to cram too many characters in. This one doesn't have that problem. In fact, it's slightly deficient in characters, if anything, because we've got Richard Mace, the actor turned highwayman, because all the theatres have been closed, presumably under Oliver Cromwell, who ruled a few years previous to when this is set. He's really the only named character apart from the Doctor and his companions, and we've got a pterodactyl leader too, of course. And there are one or two other speaking parts, but they're just given job titles rather than names. We've got the gamekeeper. No, sorry, not the gamekeeper. The opposite of that, the poacher, rather, the miller, the village headman, and even a bloke wielding a scythe who's called the Scythe Man. It's very odd that very few characters. I mean, the only other characters in it, named characters, appear right at the start of the story in the first scene before the Doctor and co are even involved. And that's the family who get wiped out in their house when the pterodactyls first arrive. And of course, the father in that family is played by the wonderful John Savidant, who also, well, was best known to many people for a little bit later playing Fred Elliott in Coronation Street. I say playing Fred Elliott in Coronation Street. Now I can't do impressions either. Can't sing, can't do impressions, can't dance. You just got to be sitting in front of a camera chatting. That's all I can do. Sorry. So that's the character list really. The pterodactyl leader, he's quite an interesting character. He's an escaped convict, as are all the other pterodactyls in this story, and of course he's been injured while in prison. It's sort of some facial disfigurement. He's lost an eye on one side, and that brings me to a sort of curiosity about the front of this video. And the first thing you might notice that's a bit odd about this is that the Doctor's question mark on his shirt collar is reversed, which of course means the whole image of the Doctor is reversed. And you might think that's odd enough. Why didn't they pick up on that? But it gets even odder when you realise that the pterodactyl leader is also reversed on here, because they've got his missing eye on the wrong side of his head. For all I know, the android with the death's head mask might be reversed too. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I suspect they reversed the whole image. I mean, maybe originally, the original design, maybe, just speculating, was that they had the Doctor Who logo and the title planned to be over here. So when they moved it to there, they had to transpose the whole image to make it fit in. But I don't know. That's just wild speculation. Now, of course, we can't talk about the Visitation without talking about the demise of the sonic screwdriver. Now, John Nathan Turner, or JNT as he was known, got rid of the sonic screwdriver for much the same reason as he'd got rid of K9 the previous season, because he felt it was too easy for the Doctor to get out of situations with using the sonic screwdriver. Now, knowing classic Doctor Who like I do, I actually think that the sonic screwdriver, it was only introduced towards the end of the Troughton era. The Troughton Doctor used it a couple of times, then it featured fairly sparingly through the John Pertwee and Tom Baker years. And I say fairly sparingly because if John Nathan Turner had lived to see what they'd done with the sonic screwdriver in 21st century Doctor Who, I think he'd be infuriated. Because whereas in 20th century Doctor Who, its functions are relatively limited and specific, in 21st century Doctor Who it can do just about damn near anything, and it really is a get out of jail free card. Why they've done that, I don't know. The overuse of the sonic screwdriver is really the only major gripe I've got with 21st century Doctor Who. I think it really is overdone and it needs to be cut back a bit. But however, when the fifth Doctor's sonic screwdriver got destroyed, it's not a really satisfactory moment, because the immediate viewer reaction would be, well, surely it can just make a new one of those. It's not like, it must have done so previously, because it's not like the one Davison has looks anything like the one say John Pertwee had, and certainly nothing like the one Patrick Troughton had. But he never does get around to making another one during the 20th century. And I can't remember if he's got one in the TV movie or not. can't think. But anyway, neither this Doctor nor the next two, for sure, ever get down to making a new one. Which shows he maybe just didn't need it all that much. But anyway, that's just how that is. The Sonic's Food Diver, gone. And the odd thing about it, the Doctor's quite sad about that, and to be honest, I think he shows, compared to how he reacts to the death of Advic, he, a couple of stories later, he seems at least as sad, if not more sad, about losing the Sonic's Food Diver. He says, I feel like you've just killed an old friend. I don't think he says anything quite like that about Advic. Mind you, he's not known Advic so long as he's known the Sonic's Food Diver, so fair dues. And it's easy to have affection for the Sonic's Food Diver than it is to have affection for Advic, isn't it? Am I being mean? Maybe some of you like Advic. I mean, I don't mind Advic, to be honest. I think Advic was okay with the 4th Doctor, but with the 5th Doctor, it just didn't quite work, so he had to go. Now, I've not said anything about the other companions, Nyssa and Tegan. Tegan doesn't get a lot to do in this one, apart from moan about not being returned to Heathrow, but in the correct time. But I mean, it wouldn't be an early 5th Doctor story if Tegan wasn't having a good old moan. Nyssa, she gets a bit more to do. She constructs this sort of device that basically vibrates a telelectral android to destruction. So she's quite busy in the TARDIS while everything else is going on. So overall, I suppose that's because there's so few other characters, and when you've got 4 regulars, you don't need an awful lot of other characters because you've got to find things for all 4 regular characters to do. And to his credit, for the most part, Eric Saywood manages it in this story. So I think that's about all I've got to say about that. And I could go on a bit longer about the Visitation, but I'm looking at the clock and I'm seeing this video is already set to be maybe one of my longer ones. And I think if I go much over 20 minutes, that's maybe a bit too much to put out. So I'll stop there, and it might be well over 20 minutes already, actually, when I take into account what I'm about to record next. So anyway, it's time to choose the next story. So I'm just going to switch devices so I can use my camera to randomly select the next story. Okay, so it's time to choose the next story. But before I do that, I've just got a little announcement to make. I've been talking to my brother, and I've asked him if he'll appear on at least 14 episodes of my vlog in the future. It's going to appear on one story for each Doctor, which he's chosen himself, and also Silver Nemesis in addition to that, because we're both going to have a lot of fun talking about that one. So I've currently got 288 stories on to select from. Now, if one of the ones that my brother is going to do crops up on the random selection, then I'll also choose a second story. Because obviously recording alongside my brother, that's subject to his availability. So if I pick a story he's going to be on, he might not be able to record it with me straight away. So I'll need a plan B. But anyway, there's only a 4 or 5% chance of it being one of the stories he's down for, but I just thought I'd mention it. That's I'm looking forward to recording a few stories with him. I mean, this vlog's going to go on for about 6 years at present rate of recording, so I mean, you'll maybe see my brother 2 or 3 times a year, or they might all be clumped together in one go if the number generator plays a bit weird with us and clumps them. But anyway, let's see what we'll get. We'll pull it down. Hopefully I've got the volume turned on this time. We've still had no Hartnell, we've had no Troughton, no McGann, no Eccleston, no Tennant. So there's still 5 untouched Doctors to go for, or it may be one of the Doctors we've already had again. So let's see what we get. And it's clicking this time because I have to turn the volume on, unlike last week. I always do something wrong with this. It stopped. Oh, well, that's 16. I don't even have to look that up to tell you what that is, because that part of the spreadsheet's undisturbed at the moment. It's Hartnell, which I'm delighted about, because William Hartnell is my absolute favourite Doctor. And it's a chase, which any of you who've seen a chase will know what a fun ride that is. So, please join me next week when we'll be talking about William Hartnell and talking about the chase. Until then, please like, please comment, please subscribe, please tell your friends about this, and please tell my friends about this if you see any of them. Bye for now.